This is Joe Biden. On October 6, 2021, results of a Quinnipiac national poll were released, and the results of that poll were dismal. The poll found that Biden's overall job approval rating was at 38%, while 53% of poll respondents disapproved of his job performance. Now, before you accuse Quinnipiac of sampling more Republicans than Democrats, here are the party identification demographics. Of the 1,326 poll respondents, 24% identified as Republican, 29% were Democrat, 37% were independent, and 10% were other/didn't know/not applicable. So now that we have that settled, let's dig into the poll results. Do you approve or disapprove of the way Joe Biden is handling the economy? 39% approve, while 55% disapprove. And that makes sense, because for the past couple of months, the federal jobs report has been missing economists' expectations. For example, non-farm payroll growth in August increased by just 235,000 versus expectations of 720,000. And in September, non-farm payroll growth increased by just 194,000 jobs versus expectations of 500,000.
Remember, today's report is based on a survey that was taken during the week of September the 13th. Not today, September the 13th.
Not sure why he would suggest that a September job survey should be taken during the second week of October, but whatever.
Not today, September the 13th, when COVID cases were averaging more than 150,000 per day. Since then, we've seen the daily cases fall by more than 1/3, and they're continuing to trend down.
So Biden is blaming the time of the month that the survey was taken and COVID-19, totally not his fault. So that leaves the question, what excuse will Biden come up with when the October numbers don't meet expectations? Well, I'm sure they'll come up with something. But maybe the economy, which was in a self-induced coma for a year, would be doing better if it wasn't for Democrat-led states who are blindly following Joe Biden's economy-killing policies. For example, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, in August 2021, 21 of the top 25 states with the lowest unemployment were what would be considered red states. And all the way at the bottom, Washington, D.C., Hawaii, Illinois, Connecticut, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, California, and Nevada. I know, you're shocked. And speaking of COVID, only 48% of Americans approve of Joe Biden's response to the coronavirus. Which is weird because I seem to recall Joe Biden tweeting the following: "We're 8 months into this pandemic, and Donald Trump still doesn't have a plan to get the virus under control. I do." First of all, Biden's plan consisted of implementing a national mask mandate. So no, not a legitimate plan. But then, after the election, Biden was handed a gift. The Pfizer vaccine, which was developed under the Trump administration, was all ready to go. And soon after, Dr. Anthony Fauci said the following:
"Let's say we get 75%, 80% of the population vaccinated. I believe if we do it efficiently enough over the second quarter of 2021, by the time we get to the end of the summer, i.e. the third quarter, we may actually have enough herd immunity protecting our society that as we get to the end of 2021, we could approach very much some degree of normality."
But 10 months later, on September 27th, right before getting a booster shot, Joe Biden made the following claim:
But the most important thing we need to do is get more people vaccinated. The vast majority of Americans are doing the right thing. Over 77% of adults have gotten at least one shot. About 23% haven't gotten any shots. And that distinct minority is causing an awful lot of us, an awful lot of damage for the rest of the country. This is a pandemic of the unvaccinated.
And there you go. That is a prime example of why people do not trust Joe Biden. Seriously, look at the way he's speaking of the unvaccinated, Biden claims that 23% of unvaccinated Americans are causing a lot of damage. He's treating them as if every single one of them are walking around spreading the virus, when statistically, most of those people have never had, nor will never have, COVID-19. And besides, even if you have been vaccinated, you can still spread the virus, which we have known for months.
Our vaccines are working exceptionally well. They continue to work well for Delta with regard to severe illness and death. They prevent it. But what they can't do anymore is prevent transmission.
So Biden claimed that he was going to listen to the scientists. But instead, Joe Biden is lying and saying that it's a pandemic of the unvaccinated, even though it's a global pandemic.
We've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin.
So is ours, Joe. So is ours. Now, remember earlier when Dr. Fauci said that the goal was to get 75 to 80% of the population vaccinated? Well, President Biden decided to move the goalposts.
How many Americans need to be vaccinated for us to go back to normal? Like, what is the percentage of total vaccinations that have to be deployed?
Well, I think we get the vast majority, like is going on in some industries and some schools, 97, 98%.
So even though the vast majority of Americans have gotten at least one dose, now Joe Biden is demanding that 98% of eligible Americans need to get vaccinated. And spoiler alert, that's never gonna happen.
Now, I know it doesn't look like it, but I am over 65. I wish I way over.
Yeah, we know. We're reminded of your decrepitude every single day.
And that's why I'm getting my booster shot today. The booster line is if you're fully vaccinated. The bottom line is that you're fully vaccinated and you're highly protected now from severe illness, even if you get COVID-19.
So Biden is saying that if you take one of the vaccines, you're less likely to become severely ill if you contract COVID. And that should be the only selling point. And according to Dr. Fauci, with 77% of eligible Americans having received at least one dose, that should be sufficient.
More people are getting vaccinated. More lives are being saved. Let's be clear. When you see headlines and reports of mass firings and hundreds of people losing their jobs, look at the bigger story.
There is no bigger story. People are losing their livelihoods over Emperor Biden's mandates. He doesn't care about religious exemptions. He doesn't care about natural immunity. In fact, he doesn't care about you unless you do exactly what he tells you to do. Which is why only 49% of poll respondents say that Joe Biden cares about average Americans. And that number includes 55% of independents who say that he doesn't care. I mean, think about it. A year ago, he was calling healthcare workers and frontline workers our better angels. And a year later, he's celebrating their mass firings because they won't comply with his demands. The most empathetic president ever, ladies and gentlemen. So it should be no surprise that according to the Quinnipiac poll, only 44% of Americans believe that Joe Biden is honest. Now, of course, the vast majority of Republicans say he's dishonest, but so do 57% of independents. And they have good reason, because Joe Biden constantly lies. Here's an example.
I've tried everything in my power to get people vaccinated. First thing I did when I was sworn in office back in January 20th is I bought enough vaccine right off the bat to vaccinate every single American. There were only 4 million Americans who had been vaccinated up to that point, even though the virus had been around.
First off, according to the Government Accountability Office, before Biden took office, the Trump administration had bought at least 800 million doses of vaccine. So Biden is trying to take credit for something that Trump already did. Second, Biden claims that only 4 million people were vaccinated when he took office, when in reality, it was more than triple that number. So if Biden is willing to lie about small things, then he will lie about anything and everything, like his Build Back Better plan.
Early this year, Wall Street, not some liberal think tank, Wall Street and a Wall Street outfit called Moody's projected that the investments in these bills could help our economy create an additional 2 million jobs per year, every year. 2 million per year. That's going to be transformative.
No, it's not, Joe, because that's not remotely what Moody's projected. In a July analysis, Moody's found that there would be 159.2 million Americans employed by the year 2031. This factors in the impact from the American Rescue Plan that was signed back in March. But if you also included the infrastructure and budget reconciliation plans, i.e. the Build Back Better bills, employment would reach 161.4 million by 2031. In other words, Moody's found that if Biden's Build Back Better plans passed, it would only create an additional 2.2 million jobs over 10 years, not 2 million jobs per year.
An additional 2 million jobs per year, every year.
But for the sake of argument, let's say that Biden isn't lying about the number of jobs that would be created, and instead assume that the experts in his administration simply misread the report and gave him the wrong info. And that might explain why 55% of Americans say that the Biden administration is not competent in running the government. And that includes 62% of independents. And the Biden administration has proven itself to be incredibly incompetent. For example, since Biden took office, migrant encounters at the US-Mexico border are at a 21-year high. And back on April 30th, Biden said that everything was fine.
In April alone, Mr. President, 170,000 people apprehended at the border. It's a 20-year record.
It's way down now. We've now gotten control.
It's way down now. We've now gotten control.
Needless to say, 67% of Americans disapprove of Biden's handling of the southern border. And for some reason, 58% of Americans disapprove of Joe Biden's handling of his job as commander-in-chief. You mean Americans don't like it when you drone strike a bunch of civilians and lie about it for weeks? Who knew? And finally, 56% of Americans think that Joe Biden doesn't have good leadership skills, while only 41% say that he does. 81 million votes, guys. 81 million votes. And on that note, that's it for now. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you next time. If there is a next time.